Oh boy, I have spent a year working on the content that you're about to watch in this video. Sorry for the is a myth title, but it isn't really clickbait. We're going to discuss how MBS, or minimum breaking strength, is great for comparing one product to another. And I appreciate having standards in life supporting gear, but to boil a piece of gear down to one single number doesn't really tell the whole story. And we are going to discuss gear and their ratings, and then the value and limits of backyard science. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Ryan Jinks, and here at How Not To, we're not trying to play the game of got you with companies putting out substandard products. I don't really believe any of the brand name climbing companies are trying to sneak in products that are going to kill us so they can beef up their annual net profits. I've been trying to find anything that might kill you for years now, and well, that's why we have the slogan of super good enough. If you use gear the way it's intended to be used, you're probably not going to die. And if you don't use it the way you're supposed to use it, you're still probably going to have a hard time dying. There's quite a bit of safety margin in climbing, slackline, canyoneering, caving gear. MBS, or minimum breaking strength, is usually printed or stamped onto most gear and is 3 break tests calculated with a 3 sigma rating, meaning that 99.9% of the products are going to be that number or stronger. We're going to get nerdy for just 1 minute. The 3 sigma rated MBS is 3 standard deviations below the average breaking strength. Standard deviation helps to define the spread and distribution of a given test sample. It is not the mean or the average, as 50% of the samples would be breaking below the MBS number. 3 sigma ratings more accurately represent the gear strength to be at least the MBS reported. That is how MBS is calculated, but how is gear tested? The short answer is, I don't know. And most of us don't know. I know ropes are usually done with large diverters to preserve the strength because knots give such a variety of results, since the sharp bend radius in a knot will reduce the strength. I do know that carabiners and a lot of items like that are pulled with a 10mm pin to represent usually something like a carabiner clipping to it, because if you had a much different diameter than that, testing it wouldn't represent kind of how they're used. But a lot of standards are either boring AF or behind a paywall. I do appreciate standards and the committees who make them because it helps us compare one product to another product, apples for apples. However, my backyard science isn't trying to do standards. I'm trying to test things the way I've literally used them, or my audience has told me they've used them, so we can kind of see their limitations or more of a real world scenario. Now, I might be biased, but I kind of like my type of science, and apparently about 63,000 other people do. Subscribe. We had somebody suggest a slogan of breaking gear fear for the channel. I thought that was creative. Put in the comments below if you like that. Maybe I'll put that on the website and even on the drop tower, because we like to help people understand their gear, that it's super good enough if they use it correctly, and to not be afraid of things other than making mistakes. So last year, I made a video about CMI hangers and how they broke below 10,000 pounds of force, which is what they're rated for. I was upset because I bought this big, giant, strong 10,000 pound hanger to make bolt busters easier, and then it broke lower than expected. And to be fair, I'm not exactly doing normal use with these things. So that led me to make a video break testing them specifically, like we have done in about 50 bolt buster videos, which you can see in our playlists. Let's just say they weren't very happy about my video, to put it lightly. Now, I did remove that video, and I do admit my delivery of that was unprofessional. This is not supposed to be my personal Yelp page, and I'm not trying to throw companies under the bus. Now, this channel might have cheesy titles like Is a Myth, but I'm not going to go XYZ is exposed and try to ruin companies for making their hangers still stronger than you're ever going to use them for. I do this channel to help end users understand their gear better, not to hurt companies with my backyard science. So I am sorry about my delivery, CMI. But now I'm even more curious to find out why these hangers broke below 10,000 pounds of force, since they told me they did a lot of testing and that it meets standards. And even a third party messaged me who also did testing, and they got 10,000 pounds. So I don't know how they're getting that, and none of them are telling me the context of how the tests are done so I could try replicating it. I thought I was testing it the way we're supposed to use it. What I did was I attached it to the ground and pulled it in shear or sideways, because that's how a lot of climbing hangers are supposed to be used. However, I found out that the CMI company has specialized towards the arborist industry, and these hangers are intended to be installed in trees and poles and being pulled straight out, or in tension or axle, rather than in shear. So that's the information I have to work with, and now we start our process of elimination. Let's prove that my load cell is reading correctly and that it's not wrong. The Rock Exotica Enforcer, the line scale 2, this Dylan dynamometer, this Dylan dynamometer, and this Dynalink dynamometer. This only goes up to 20 before it says overloaded, which means I ruined it. This will go up to 30. This goes up to 44 kilonewtons or 10,000 pounds. This will go up to 88 kilonewtons or 20,000 pounds. And this is 222 kilonewtons at 50,000 pounds. But this only reads pounds of force. Whoa! That was so just as fast as I could push that. One more and I would go over for sure. So 15.8. 16, 15.8, 15.8, and I imagine that's around 15 something. So then we tested these in a tree, since that is how they're intended to be used. Look, a tree. That's what these are designed to go on. And so that's what we're going to test to see if we get any differences. We're going to put it here and pull this way, and we're going to put it here and pull straight out. So what I have here is a 5/8 inch lag bolt, which is what it is designed for. And you can see there how it looks. Put it there. And so I'm gonna put this in here. I started it with a 5-inch bit because the first inch or two doesn't even have threads, doesn't matter. Then I'm going to do 1/2 inch and get it to bite down real hard. We have bolt busters, and I connected all the hydraulics to it. And this is my anchor on the backside, which should be plenty enough to test our experiment today. Man, that is a clash against the Titans. 44 kilonewtons is MBS on this, and this is 30.48. It definitely had a little bit of life left in it. I think we're getting 37 on the other ones. But the fact that dang it, nothing is easy. Our other skinnier bolts are better than this. That just shows you different types of metals definitely have an effect on things. I'm putting this straight in now so I can pull straight out. Nothing breaks that's supposed to. Okay, 42.74. This would reach MBS. If you are pulling straight out, you are going to get 10,000 pounds. Come on, it's tease. I just want to see more than 44. 42.42. Our metal is, you know, it's done. So maybe we can try it again with a fresh bolt.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do? How long a bolt do you want?
It's your tree, man.
It's my tree. No, look, it's bent. I'm thinking. I feel sorry for the tree.
Yeah. I mean, this might be all the testing I need. I could do one more, maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Go ahead, but if I can, I don't know. The goal is to test this, so I'm not testing the tree. So, one more time.
Third bolt. First try, third bolt. $42.82. Well, we're getting pretty close to 10,000 pounds. If this wasn't hurting his tree so much, I would try the bigger shekel, but I think we're gonna just call it quits from here because, yeah, this is the weak link. Well, that was a fun test because I've never tested things in trees, but very interesting results. In shear, we got 30.48 before the bolt sheared off, but the hanger did start to tear, and 42 kilonewtons in tension before my puller got damaged, and then we pulled again and got 42 still before the bolt came out of the tree. And then we installed a fresh bolt and hanger to pull in tension again and got 42 kilonewtons again, and the hanger did not fail. The bolt pulled out, but the hanger started to tear where the break is in the metal. So a few conclusions here is, one, strength doesn't matter beyond the strength of the bolt you're attaching it with. And the second conclusion is I realized by pulling this in shear, I'm putting all the force on this one side because it's such a large hanger, unlike some of our smaller hangers here. And that is not going to give us full strength, right? Now, I doubt they're actually installing these in trees for standardization, and I realized that they might be using a slow pull machine, which is pretty common. So we decided to test them on SlackSnap. We're testing the CMI hanger the way we think that CMI tested their hanger to see if we can get 44 kilonewtons or the 10,000 pounds that this is rated. We have this on a shackle through the eye, which is normally where it is fastened to a tree or a structure. And then the same quick link that we did our other tests in our previous video. The hole here is rated for 5/8. It's specified for that. I'm sure that's how they test it. And so that is pretty close to 5/8 of a pin. Okay, so we actually got very consistent results with what we got before. Okay, we are doing this again, but with a big shackle on this side to see if that makes any difference. Same pin on this side. We solved the mystery. In case you're curious on their rating, 48.44 or 10,650 pounds of force. Congratulations, we discovered how to do this. So now that makes a lot of sense. The slow pull machine and the larger eye, I assume, is how they test it, but it's not confirmed by anybody. The larger eye helps pull on both sides evenly of the hanger. How things break is so interesting to me. And their updated website page on this product says CMI bolt hangers were originally designed to be used in the ropes course market to be fastened to a tree or pole with a 5/8 inch lag screw, which is what we did in the tree. The larger the normal size helps facilitate tree overgrowth and allow extra time to keep using the hanger on the tree. That's a good feature. I'd never thought about that. They are not to be used for climbing or slacklining, which is a great update on here if that's not what they're meant to be used, because in those contexts, the hanger is going to be pulled in shear, whereas what they're trying to do is get you to pull it in tension. But Bobby had an interesting thought about this.
I've worked in challenge courses for probably about 15 years. I have never seen a shackle like this connected to one of these hangers. Most often it's like a 12mm quick link, or like we used in the test.
Now, before you get your pitchforks out, they do meet standards and tell us what those standards are. It exceeds standards for the ANSI ACCT 03-2019 standards for the life safety systems / anchorages. Whew, it's a mouthful, but it does meet standards. They can't put that unless it did. Now, I do like the last bit on their website because I honestly wish more gear companies would do this, and it seems obvious when it's on here, but I'm still shocked after 2,000 brake tests on this channel that, certain things happen. They say, It is well known that controlled test results in a lab can differ from real-world test results. Yeah, that makes sense. Factors such as pin diameter, direction of pull, different test materials and methods, speeds at which the specimen is pulled, and weather can affect final numbers of a particular piece. Not sure how weather does, but I did learn that speed has a huge part of it. Please be mindful that even though we rate our gear at a particular poundage, it is possible to produce lower or higher numbers due to different factors mentioned above. Fair enough. It's not the minimum breaking strength no matter how you use the product. Good note. Now let's come back to that in just a minute. Our curiosity hasn't stopped yet. CMI hangers are a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters thick steel that is plated in a clear chromated solution before being powder coated. Welcome to the moment we've been planning for months. We are in the middle of nowhere and we are going to test this hanger, which we got from Rune from Norway. These are custom made. These are 6 millimeters in thickness, the same as the CMI hangers. A normal fixed hanger is 4 millimeters, and their latest one, which you can see in a video right here, is 3.5 millimeters thick. We have a 1/2 inch hole, so we can use our Titan HD concrete screws from Simpson Strong Tie.
Nailed it!
Wow, that's a lot of words for a bolt. Because they're pretty much the strongest bolts we use, and they're the easiest to put in and out. I just don't think we're gonna break these. Now, the thing that has the same problem as the CMI hangers is the curve is really tight, especially for how thick the hanger is. If you look at a normal hanger, it has a little bit more of a gentle curve before it becomes a full 90 degrees from where it sits flat to the rock. That doesn't happen very often where it just completely shears that thing off. This bolt is not deformed too badly. 45.72. Same condition, almost same result. We're learning a lot about these bolts, not much about these hangers. .20 kilonewtons, 14,000 pounds, and the hole blew out of the back. These corners, the bends, did not tear. And this is this side. Basically just straightened back out. I bet the smaller shape and mostly the different type of steel helped get 20 extra kilonewtons out of the hanger. But zoom out a minute. Does any of this matter if the fat bolt is going to snap off or pull out first? Probably not. Don't base your purchase decisions on a few backyard science tests when it is super strong enough regardless. As far as I'm aware, this is the only large hanger that is pretty nice for certain applications, ideally the ones they specify. Now, if your rigging is going to fail because it broke at 9,000 pounds because you're pulling on it at a slight angle with a quick link and not a shackle, then you're not necessarily a safe rigger. Redundancies, safety margins, yeah, that's why that's there. Now, watching these videos and smashing that like button will make you a more well-rounded rigger in knowing how things break in all sorts of situations, whether or not you're supposed to use them in those situations. I really like knowing how my gear works and why, so that's what keeps me going here. So now let's go back to the MBS conversation. Let's stop examining CMI hangers for a minute and look at other things that have broken below MBS. Enter monster cruxes from boltproducts.com. Highliners love the large eye, the bend radius of monster cruxes. Most of our tests, however, did not break at the 60 kilonewton MBS. But we don't buy it for that. We buy it for the size and the shape. We pull it all sorts of ways with all sorts of glues and different rocks, and I'm just not worried about the strength at all. Our webbing is going to break before one of those bolts would ever break. So it's just an example of how MBS is such a small focal point in a bigger picture. Now let's talk about wave bolts. Those are pretty popular. They basically didn't do any official testing from what I can tell. And their website says in shear, it won't break below 9,000 pounds of force because that's as strong as our machine would go and it wasn't broken yet. And in tension or straight out, 8,000 pounds of force. Interesting. We got as low as 8,000 pounds of force in shear and as high as 10,000 pounds before the bolt would basically open up and snap. And if you use AC 100 glue, the bolt will come out at around 7,000 pounds of force. And if you use epoxy, it's just going to break around 9,000 pounds of force. So the numbers are all up there and super good enough. But in their tests, they did get those results. But if you change the tests around, you're going to get different results. Now what's funny is it doesn't really matter the maximum breaking strength of those. They start to deform and stay deformed around 4 or 5 kilonewtons. So that means possibly if you had a high line and it was blowing really hard and your anchor wasn't self-equalizing, might bend a bolt, Alonzo. It's just good to know that not just the maximum strength, but also that what they'll do at lower forces or like quick links. Yeah, they'll break at 60 kilonewtons, but you're not going to get them open after 20. It's pretty nice to know that. And to pick on everybody equally here, the fixed Healy bolt, which is technically discontinued, has an MBS of 28 kilonewtons, and only a few, most of them broke above. In tension, there was a few that were at 27. So they were a pretty consistent result, but did break below MBS technically. Now, rumor has it, if you're testing a bolt, and some people, they'll pull it at 8 kilonewtons 10 times, and then they'll do a final grand finale, and that is how they're getting some of these numbers, because that is realistic. However, it's doing work hardening. It's making the steel stronger by doing that. And if you pull it super, super slow, you can actually get it even stronger. So how you pull it and the speed in which you pull it will give you vastly different results, which, as a guy who's broken over 400 bolts, is pretty interesting. And another problem is bolts are too strong. And this is something that really was difficult, is you can't just put a carabiner in these things. So you can't even use a 10 millimeter pin shackle sometimes because the pin will break, the shackle will break before the bolt. So you kind of have to use, what, 12 or 14 millimeter pins so they don't break first, but then that's not simulating a carabiner. And none of it matters if all carabiners break below the Monster Crux bolt, for example. And if bolt manufacturers test in a concrete block, it's just gonna destroy that concrete most of the time. The concrete's just not strong enough. Even granite blocks, I've heard, will crumble. In our videos, go to the playlist, you'll see that the rock is usually sometimes our like biggest problem. That's why I can't do bolt busters in concrete anymore. It's just, you can't, I want to break the bolt. So no single breaking strength can give you everything you could know about your gear, but it kind of gives you all you need to know, which is super good enough. And one last example is we just tested Sky Diamond webbing that's rated for 35 kilonewtons MBS and put in a web block. It broke at 20, but it's a 17 millimeter or narrow webbing, whereas my web blocks for 1 inch are 25 millimeters. And so when the webbing kind of slips off of itself, it's low stretch webbing, and it's going to tear one side before the other and breaks it a lot lower. It's great to know. So you use the right web block and you don't try to get too creative with the webbing, knowing the strength is reduced that much if you break the rules. There's other products that you can kind of break the rules and it's not that consequential. They are actually sending me a 17 millimeter web block and a couple more samples so we can show that used properly that it is 35 kilonewtons, because the 20 kilonewtons was such a huge difference. Now, we haven't even discussed how knots and ropes really throw variables in the situation, but this video is already too long. It's already taken 40 hours to make this video over the course of a year, if you don't count the fact that the entire channel is built around the fact MBS is not all I want to know about gear. But the conclusion is, be nice to gear companies so they don't hate me. Realize that knowing MBS is only limited understanding of your gear, and subscribe so you can see future videos of us testing things with backyard science. That's all I got for you guys. Cheers.